Welcome to Workstyle Stories, because life changes and every life is different. Work needs to respect that. This week, we're talking about exactly that, how life can change overnight dramatically, and it can reshape how you look at life, how you look at work and what's important. But before we get into all that, I'm just going to start by saying hello to Sam, who's joined us to share his Workstyle stories. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Alex.
For the benefit of everybody tuning in, would you mind just kicking us off by introducing yourself, say who you are, where you are, and what you do?
Yeah, so my name's Sam Robinson. I'm currently in my house in West Malling in Kent, which is a nice rural leafy area, and I am a marketer.
Brilliant. And so we're going to talk about your Workstyle story. To help us kind of understand the journey you've been on, would you mind just giving us a flavour of kind of what your typical or traditional working life was like, say 4 or 5 years ago? What was the type of work you were doing, and what was your work style like, your kind of working day?
Yeah, so my work style was always very typical of a marketing professional, I suppose. My aspirations and success criteria were generally driven by climbing the corporate ladder, going as high as I could and earning as much money as I could in the process. And I would work normal office hours. So, you know, arriving sort of 8 in the morning and leaving 6, 7 o'clock at night, unless there was a deadline when I'd be in the office a lot longer.
It's amazing. I mean, you know, people talk about the 9 to 5, and already just there, you've talked about 8 till 6 or 7 as being your kind of norm, and then sometimes longer than that. And presumably you had a commute either side of that as well, did you?
Yeah. So luckily for me, I although I'm in Kent, we're quite close to London, and so I've generally worked, certainly for the last 5 or 6 years, in the area. I managed to get jobs in Bromley, which is just on the outskirts of London, really. So it was about 40 minutes to an hour each way in the car, or an hour on the train, depending on where I got the train from. So yeah, that bolted on to either side of the day, really.
Okay.
No matter the job.
And did you enjoy it?
Yeah. No, I love marketing, so I've always enjoyed my job. I'm one of those lucky people that sort of, I went to university, got my degree in marketing because it's what I wanted to do, and then came out of university, got a job in marketing, and I've done that since. So I just love marketing, you know, regardless of the industry or the product I'm marketing. I've loved it. So I enjoyed working on something that I loved and being in those environments.
And in terms of, you know, a 40-minute commute and the hours that you described were kind of normal, accepted, part and parcel of what it means to do that line of work, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
And you, like most people at that point, wouldn't have needed to consider it being any other way, because that's just how it is. But then things changed, didn't they? So what happened, and how did it affect the work that you were doing?
So, I mean, the first response to that is it doesn't affect the work that you're doing. So the circumstances that changed in my life didn't reduce my ability as a marketer. But what they did do is open my eyes to new priorities. So unfortunately, my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2017. And we just had our young daughter, who was 6 months old at the time. And suddenly my priorities completely changed. You know, I had a very new perspective on life, and although I still wanted to achieve my career aspirations, I needed to put my family first. And I actually found that quite difficult in a corporate environment, in a normal working pattern.
Obviously, I can appreciate that and empathise with that, understanding what Lizzie's going through at the moment with her own battle with breast cancer. In terms of your shifting priorities, then, what did you change, sort of first and foremost?
So I've had experience of lots of different employers, and some value your time behind the desk and some value your output, which is a much more progressive way of viewing the world, right? But Laura, my wife, she needed to have lots of appointments, and I wanted, as her husband, to be at every single one of them, to understand what the doctors were saying to her, to help her to process the information that she was being given, but also just to be there as a support. And I felt like I needed to change jobs to do that. So I moved to another company who, as a well-being company, they ran golf centres and local authority leisure centres, and well-being was at the core of what they did. They had a much better approach to flexible working, and that enabled me to support Lauren better when she was re-diagnosed with a spread of cancer and became terminal. So she'd been through her 6 months of chemotherapy and an extra month of radiotherapy, and we'd been told by the doctors that she was not needed for a little while for any checkups or anything. That's as good as an all clear gets, I suppose. And having been through that period of time and had this new perspective on life, I changed employers so that we could actually enjoy more time together. I could get a bit more of a flexible approach to my work. And it was the right decision, because when she was re-diagnosed, the employer that I was with at the time was really supportive of me going to appointments and working my time around that, working from home, working from the local golf course. And that started to sort of open my eyes a bit to, how actually you can create an environment where you can put, your personal life as a priority above your working life, and achieving both. But it was always, there was always still a limit. And then unfortunately, COVID came along, and as a leisure operator, my business really suffered, and I was made redundant.
I mean, it's a terrible sequence of events for you. So, but what I admire is the way that you seem to be taking matters into your own hands. So rather than being a victim of your circumstance, you're turning your circumstance into opportunity. So what's your work style like now then?
Well, I mean, probably the crucial part that I've missed out is that since being made redundant, a month after I was made redundant, Lauren actually passed away. So, devastatingly, my world was turned upside down. It was tough enough to deal with her battling cancer and having a young daughter at the time, still having a young daughter. And when she passed away, I kind of was faced with this dilemma of the way that I see it is, my daughter Molly has already lost 50% of her parent availability, right? Because Lauren's died. So how do I now be more of a parent to her, but also provide financially, keep the roof over our head, the food's in our tummy, and in the long term achieve my career aspirations? And having had that experience of a more flexible employer with restrictions, I felt like actually the only way for me to do that was to start working for myself. And so my work style is driven by one objective, which is how can I provide financially and pick my daughter up from school every day? And that means that at the moment, my work style is that I work from 9 till 3, and then again when she's gone to bed in the evening. But being able to control that for myself means that I'm taking control of the situation. It means that no management change or no personnel change or view change or business change or culture change is going to stop me from being able to do that. So that's kind of what my work style is now.
Sam, I hope you realise just what an inspiration you are on so many fronts, for everything that you've been through, but also just for sharing your story, because it takes incredible courage to do that, but it also helps a lot of other people to know that there are people who are in a similar situation or a more difficult situation, but who are also finding solutions for themselves. And We're incredibly grateful to you for sharing your story. Thank you very much indeed. We've been Workstyle Stories. Unfortunately, we've got to go, so we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.